In this video we're going to develop some enhancements to the network graph plot that we produced in the previous tutorial. This is where we finished up, so we've got our network graph showing the relationship between a variety of different people, and I can see there their name, location, and then how many links they've got. And all we've done is we've stretched the graph up so that the people with the largest number of links appear at the top and the people with the fewest links appear down the bottom, and we can sort of rotate that around on screen if we want to see the whole graph. So first thing I'm going to do is actually change the shape, because looking at this graph doesn't really give me any sense immediately of what it's about. But what I can do is go on to the mapping, and here at the moment we've got the shape set to sphere. All I'm going to do is come down here and choose from one of the shapes we've got. So I'm just going to choose man and replot the data. And so here we see the network graph, and now it's immediately obvious what we're talking about here is the connectivity between a bunch of people within a social graph. Next thing I'm going to do is we're not currently showing any of the information about the location which is in the dataset. So I can see here I've got the city that each of them lives in. So what I'm going to do is we're going to choose the color field, and I'm going to put the city into that, and I'm then going to automatically generate a translation table. Just get it to fill the translation table out for me. If I don't like any of these colors, like white's not a particularly good one, I can just type in a new color and then save that. And if I now plot the data, then we should now see all the people who live in the same city are coming up in the same color. So Smith in Birmingham, Wilson in Birmingham, Walker in Birmingham, and so on. You'll notice actually the plot changes slightly each time I represent it. That's because we're actually randomly generating the locations of people, although we're still maintaining this sense of the person with the most connections is appearing at the top of the graph. Another way we can use color is by actually changing the links. So if I look at the link data, just double click on that. So if I look at the link data, I can see one of the things I've got here is link type, and that actually shows me what the connectivity is between the people. So what I'm going to do is go to color. We're going to get rid of the fixed color of light gray. I'm going to insert link type, and again what I'm going to do is just automatically generate that. And just to make it doubly clear, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put link type into the label as well. It's important when you're plotting links not to auto scale the dataset, so I've made sure that's unplotted. So click on plot, and you'll see now actually all the lines are now coloured, and if I hover over one of these, then you can see that's a family link and so on. So I'm beginning to make a richer network graph than the one I had originally, taking more of the data that's within the dataset and displaying it onto the screen. Okay, one final thing I want to do with this before we actually change the visualization completely is if we go back to our mapping, everything we've been doing so far has been on the basic tab. We also have an advanced tab, and that lets us do things like changing the texture on each of the point, in other words the image on it, changing the rotation, but the one I want to look at here is changing the browser URL. So this means when we click on a point we can actually launch off onto the web. So previously hunting around on Facebook, I discovered if I use this as the root of a URL, then actually it'll do a quick search within Facebook. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use that as an example. I'm going to put this into the browser URL field, and then I'm going to add in the name, put it in squiggly brackets so that we actually get that picked up, and that should then generate a whole set of searches for each one. And if I now plot this data, so nothing obviously has changed on the visualization itself, but if I now want to know more about this person Taylor, then just as an example, all I do is right click, and you see as well as having examined point, I've now actually got visit URL. So click on visit URL, and that's launched my browser and opened up, and then here's the people named Taylor that it's pulled out from Facebook. So quite a simple example, but it shows the way in which if you've got another system that has more information about a particular person or about a particular data, could be a scientific test or anything else like that, then it does give you a way of linking that data into Datascape and into the visualization. But what if we want to make a radically different change to our visualization and move away from this sort of random distribution? What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create a new mapping. So I'm going to click on new map, and I'm giving choices here of either going to using a mapping that already exists or creating a new one or copying. So I'm going to create a new one. And here are the mapping templates. These are the ways of speeding you to develop particular sorts of mappings. The one I'm going to use here is the cylindrical mapping template, because I actually want to plot the data into a circle. So click on Next. And you'll see here in the cylindrical mapping we've replaced sort of X, Y, Z with the elements of the cylindrical map. So that's the angle, which is how far around the circle a point gets plotted. That's the height, so that's what creates a cylinder out of a circle. And then the radius, in other words, what's the radius of that particular cylinder or circle. I've made a first guess at some of the values, but I'm not happy with the choices it's made. So what I want to do is I'm going to actually put row ID, I'm going to put ID into the angle. And so what that means is it will spread each of the users out evenly around the circle itself. I'm going to leave height at 0 because I just want to plot this as a circle. We could potentially make that dependent on, say, the number of links, as in the previous visualization. And then I'm going to fix the radius at 100 units. That should work well. Colour, we can do exactly as we did before. We can base that around city and put in our translation table. So let's autofill that. And the size, again, let's make this dependent on the number of links. We're going to auto scale this data set again, so I'm going to plot this. And you see what it's done there is it's actually plotted my data set, and it's actually updated the network graph lines as well, move them to the new location. It looks like some of these circles are actually a bit big, so what I'm going to do is if I just double click on network nodes again, it picks up the cylindrical mapping because that's the one we've currently got displayed, and what we can do is maybe just bring these nodes down in size, so let's just divide by 3 and replot that, and that's probably a better size. Just as with the previous one, I can change from circles to something a little bit more meaningful. So what we'll do this time, just for a bit of variety, is we'll go down here and we'll pick up the female marker. So it's under woman, and plot that. And there's my chord-based visualization complete. If I now want to change between the two visualizations I've got, then all I need to do is select the data set, and then you see I've got both the visualizations here. So all I do is change to the original mapping, click apply. There's a slight bug in this current version, it doesn't update the network links, so if I just want to update those, just click on apply for those, and that moves them all into their correct location. And I can switch back again, back on cylindrical mapping, apply, and again just manually move each of the network lines down. So hopefully that's given you an idea about how we can move from that very basic network graph we had initially, enrich it through the use of shape and colour, producing links out to web resources and other applications, and then also actually how we can dramatically change the shape of the visualization to create a chord-based graph. Thank you.